Hello and good afternoon.
Hey, is this Arrow?
That would be me, man. What's going on with you, man?
Hey, dude. Oh, this is Jonathan. Hey, I'm doing great. I'm just down here in Austin, man. Just recuperating from a week of mayhem.
This year's South by Southwest.
Man, I'm learning how to relax a little bit more during South by. I have spent, I'm a Texas guy, so I've spent almost 15 years now just in the hustle every year of South by, and I just always get beat to a pulp. But this year I kind of laid back. I leaned back a little bit and let it come to me, and it was a great year.
That's interesting that you say that, because is that something that you learned along the way of the COVID lockdown? Because all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I'm going to enjoy this time around because I've been given that opportunity.
Well, for sure. Just in general, with touring and playing, I feel like that's just the case all around. Been really loving being able to get back out on the road. Ended up in some backwoods Jackson, Mississippi bar last week, and it was just what I'd been missing, because the last even the last year of doing weekend runs or whatever, it was don't go out after the show because you want to be careful. And so it's finally feeling kind of get back out, and definitely making me feel like I appreciate. I've always loved to play. I'm a musician through and through. It's medicine for me. So I've always loved it, but it definitely kind of has brought a fresh perspective. But I think as far as just kind of leaning back a little bit more, it's probably just getting older and just learning that even if you really try to force things, it doesn't necessarily work. I really think that leaning back and just letting things flow, it can really work.
Mm-hmm. You being a part of that Texas sound, there are decades of history inside those riffs and lyrics.
I know, man. There really are. There really are. It's like an accent, You just can't. You can try to fake it, but I think that when it comes to the scene down here in Austin, especially, it's just so unique. And there are other towns that have it, like New Orleans and Nashville and Chicago and New York and Los Angeles, Memphis, but they all kind of have their own. They all have their own sort of Darwinistic, evolutionary traits. It's the environment and the culture kind of shaped it. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know if I would ever, when I grew up in Dallas, I didn't know if I would end up in Austin, but it just kind of happened. And I really love it so much here that I really don't see myself going anywhere else.
I look at places like Austin as being like a creative volcano, and because Gainesville, Florida is the same way. Look at Detroit, look at Seattle. It's like these little pockets where something is happening in these areas, and it just brings people to it.
Oh yeah. I love the Florida thing, man. Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Montana. So, I was up there in that Seattle area with Jimi Hendrix and Heart, and then, of course, the grunge movement and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. That's awesome stuff. I love Seattle. Yeah, the Florida thing's cool too, though, with the Skinnerd and with Tom Petty, and that whole world is freaking great stuff too. Yeah, it's cool. It's just it's just the way that the culture and the city embraces it, and you get paid, and you get sort of you learn how to do a thing that entertains people, and they reward you for it, and it's sort of keeps you going down that path, and it's I guess it kind of, in a way, it sort of trains people up. Yeah. In a sense.
Yeah. How many people have called you the American Pride? Because you're sporting that American flag, and even in your merch, man. You've got some cool stuff going on there.
Man, I really believe in the ideas and I'm very proud American, man. I believe in what we stand for and the freedoms that people fought for. I mean, I'm not trying to sound cheesy or anything. It means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having the freedom to believe and say whatever you want, and for the most part, I mean, people might call you an asshole or something like that, but the truth is like so many other places, like you get freaking killed for your beliefs, or speaking your mind, and I just think that here we're really, and people just don't realize it because we're in such a bubble, but it's like, when people get on Facebook and complain about what's happening, I'm like, in certain countries, like you would be like flagged and like taken care of. It's like, so don't complain that much, like realize that pretty lucky, but yeah, I guess I haven't been called the American Pride yet, but I do. I mean, I really do. I just do believe in the ideas of everyone's created equal, and the freedom of speech and ideas. I think that those are beautiful things, and
there are a lot of people in this country that need to keep an eye on those 3 cosmonauts that just appeared on that International Space Station, decorated in yellow and blue. Because I'll tell you what, when they get home, something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like we could go down a rabbit hole. We could go, because this is a deep subject. Because I mean, it's like, I mean, you remember like 3 years ago, a journalist was basically dismembered in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's like journalists disappearing all over China. It's kind of like the freedom of criticism against the higher powers in certain places is very, very scary.
Yeah.
So, and I, the whole issue right now with Russia and Ukraine is just so bizarre to me. And it really all comes down to oil and energy and money, and God, it's scary stuff.
Well, don't you feel like that you are the medicinal, you are the doctor that's going to step in there and take care of a lot of people's mind, body, and souls with that guitar? I mean, that's a real damn guitar. And what you're doing with Magic Sam's Boogie and stuff like that, I mean, you're giving people that place to escape, to break free of.
Well, that's what I always try to, even at all my shows, I will break down and say, what I loved about music was show 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, and nobody's looking around the audience going like, oh, that guy over there is a Republican, or that guy's a Democrat, or that guy over there is gay, or that girl's whatever. All these identity politics that we've been playing, those things all kind of become irrelevant when you're playing music and you're listening to something that's taking you to a higher place, which I think is the kind of the soul zone, where you're just, nobody's looking around doing that. We're all together as like mankind, and we're just enjoying something together. And I feel like that's what naturally happens when you don't have people dividing us up with these messages like over media and things like that. And it's just, that's kind of who I am. I don't really want to sort of like get into like who's right and who's wrong and go into sort of debates. It's like, dude, let's just be together and live together and try to find some harmony together. And that's what it means to me to be up there playing. So that's the most beautiful thing that can happen, in my opinion, is when you just get a big group of people together that aren't really, doing that with each other. And
so let's just say that you walked into a room at Gillies, over there in Pasadena, and up on that stage was some dude by the name of Jonathan Tyler. As a real person just walking through life, what would you think of that dude, and what would you feel?
Interesting. Well, I always try to just be as real as possible, with mistakes, with what I try to speak from my heart. And so I I would hope that I would recognize, I would hope that I would recognize that, of the years of training and effort to get to where I could like play a song the way we play, my band and I, we're trying to make it look easy,
mm-hmm.
but we're actually doing a lot of things that take a lot of effort to get to that sort of spot. So it's like, I would hope that people would feel that and hear that, but also sense the sort of freedom of just being sort of in the moment and just kind of letting things happen the way that they are. And I mean, the show isn't like such a sort of like planned out show. It's more of a sort of like jam in a way where it just kind of comes together in the moment. And I just think that that's kind of like poetic in a way, and that's kind of why I like to roll that way. It's because it's like, things aren't always perfect, and things aren't always like exactly what you think they're going to be. Yeah. And I think that those moments actually kind of, I don't know, in some way make me feel like more human and connected to the human experience when there's mistakes and when there's unexpected things. Yeah. But then it's like then the climaxes are a lot stronger too, because it's like, it's like you work to get there.
Well, speaking of those connections, I mean, look at what you've done with your music. It's not just being, delivered, through MP3s and websites and Spotify and stuff like that. I mean, you're putting your stuff on television and in movies. I mean, you're reaching a completely different audience.
It's hard to believe sometimes when I because I get in my head sometimes just like anybody else, and it's like, man, am I spinning my wheels? What am I doing? And then just sometimes you have to stop and go, wait a second, like, this is amazing. All these things that have happened in all these places that I've gotten to from a song, it's like a song comes from thin air. It's like, it's not like a typical business where you have to buy things or create some sort of product. I mean, I guess a song is a product, but in its purest form, it's just a vibration and a melody, and you just start, you catch that from inspiration that comes from God knows where, and and then all of a sudden it's like that song is taking you all over the world, and that part is pretty phenomenal. I mean, talk about return on investment. It's kind of crazy when you think about it from that standpoint too.
I do a thing on iHeartRadio that it basically trains people to learn how to stream think. In other words, learning how to trust, like you're talking about. When something comes to you, you got to go for it right now. And because you didn't expect it, but through stream thinking and through believing what's going on right now, you sit there and now you milk it and you let it grow.
It's phenomenal what can happen, man. I mean, I like I said, I can't believe some of the it truly is magic. Yeah. And I think that so much of how we think affects the life that we end up creating for ourselves. And I feel like it's kind of like riding a bike, the more you, like when you catch that first ride and you feel the balance and you're kind of like shaky, mm-hmm. but the feeling, and you're like, wow, this is something. And then as you do it more, you just get to this point where you can start, taking your hands off the handlebars sometimes. and it's crazy, but it's, but I've got this trust now with my intuition where when I feel that intuition, I can just kind of, like you said, in the moment, just, it's like, oh, here it is. I can feel it right now. And I just sort of, I found that really is where the magic lies in life. And it's, it seriously, it'll bring me to tears thinking about it. 'Cause it's just like, really lucky sometimes just to be able to do what we do and to have the moments that we have. And,
You talk about riding the bike, and one of the things that it shot me back to when my grandson recently learned how to ride the bike, and then he crashed about 5 minutes later, and I laughed. He says, "Why are you laughing?" Because if you're going to ride a bike, you got to learn how to crash, buddy.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean with that's kind of what I mean with the live moments, and sort of like, there's so many times during my show. I was playing last night, and I got to this solo section, and I had forgotten to put the harmonica that I was supposed to use on the song. And I just I had to just stop. And the crowd, the crowd was like, they didn't get mad at me. It wasn't like, "Oh, you stink." It was just kind of like, it's okay. It's okay, man. But like getting to that spot of just being okay with that. 'Cause there's times where, and it still happens sometimes, where I start a set and, playing an hour-long set or an hour-and-a-half set, it's very much like it's like snowboarding or skiing. You start off, and it's like if you start off strong and you're feeling good, like you can kind of just cruise down the mountain, But sometimes you hit a hiccup in the beginning of the set, and it can derail the whole rest of the set where you're just mentally thinking about it. But I'm trying to get, that's my practice, is just trying to get to where I'm accepting of those moments and just letting them be what they are, and just kind of, realizing that actually that might be what somebody needs to see, Wow.
So what's the website where fans can go to give you guys lots of love and definitely get their hands on that merchandise?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's really pretty easy. It's Jonathan Tyler Music, which is, my name, jonathantylermusic.com. And people can, they can, Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever they're using. And it'll find me pretty easily too.
Excellent. Well, when that tour bus comes over here to to the Carolinas sometime, man, we got to get together. I got to show you some Carolina ribs and not those darn Texas ribs.
Oh, dude, my dad's side of the family is from Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh, you get it then.
Oh, dude, I love that stuff. That's talking my language.
Well, come back to the show anytime, man. The door's always going to be open for you.
I appreciate it, Arrow. Thanks, man.
Well, you be brilliant today, man.
All right, you too. Thanks, man.